Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. I don't know what day it is of quarantine right now. I feel like I'm in some post-apocalyptic movie and I'm, giving a journal or whatever. I don't even feel like I'm on YouTube anymore. But nonetheless, hopefully everyone's holding up well and curious to see, what you guys are up to. If you're binging on Love is Blind with your girl, if you're watching Game 5 of Spurs Blazers Memorial Day, what are you guys up to pass the time? If you've been binging any of what's been going on LHN for my Texas fans, I know it's been a while since I've had some Texas content. So overall, just want to with the current state of affairs in this world and how serious the nature of things are, I think it's important to um, kind of put some things in perspective as it relates to sports. Unless you believe it's the end of days, we are going to come around to eventually getting back to whatever the new normal will be, which hopefully, and I believe it will include sports, right? And starting out with football, whenever it comes back around, and you know, what does that world look like? I want to talk about that and really opportunity knocks for certain individuals out there. But first, shout out to our video sponsors, Boss's Ranch. They've joined me here. Had to take them out the fridge. Got to keep it fresh. Got to keep it cold. Keep it refrigerated. Best darn ranch in Texas. No better partner outside of my wife and my pups that I'd like to have during this quarantine period of coronavirus than Boss's Ranch. HEB, guys, I went out to HEB. It is you're still able to buy some stuff. You might have to pick up some things you don't normally eat, but if you need to drown some stuff, drown it with some Boss's Ranch. I love it. Uh, Best darn ranch in Texas. I say it all the time. Phenomenal product, and they're amazing people to support. Right now, we're also looking to support folks out there, service industry, small businesses that are struggling, people that through no fault of their own who are out of work and just looking to support their families. So I choose to support Boss's Ranch, and they're an unbelievable partner. For those of you who are near some of their pizza locations, if they're doing carry out or delivery, please help them out and take advantage. We all could use some uplifting and some of us financially or for the sake of our businesses. So glad I was able to get that in. And first off, I want to say this because I'm of the belief that eventually, just seeing the way things have gone in China, South Korea, and some of the other places, we're starting to see some positive news where they can get back to a state of normalcy, starting to open up like Apple stores. I think the Korean Basketball League might even be starting back up. So as they start to figure out how to combat this virus, how to slow things down so that our hospitals and our medical facilities are not completely overwhelmed and we're able to get people the help and the testing that they need, we can get back to having the conversations and getting back to supporting and enjoying the sports that we love. For the sake of football, because that's the big one that people are scared of. Now the NFL is doing business as usual right now from a free agency perspective, and we'll see what happens with the draft and all that. But for the sake of college football, common sense has to prevail at three levels. Okay, fans, coaches, players, and when you look at the situation that happened at the University of Georgia, and their staff was still going into the office every day and trying to go about business as usual, minus spring football and whatnot, but at least going into the office and interacting with each other. And then you hear about one of their coaches eventually tests positive for coronavirus, develops pneumonia, and is battling some very, very serious symptoms on a ventilator. These are some things I heard, via social media. And then obviously Georgia came and confirmed some of those reports. So common sense has to prevail. That's the type of stuff when they talk about social distancing and quarantining, and you just have to figure things out. As a coaching staff working remotely, many of us are doing it. One of the reasons why I haven't been able to make more videos for you guys is this is actually my work office. I'm making this video from right now. Business has been crazy on our end, trying to help our customers in the tech field, dealing with challenges of trying to get folks as many people as possible to be able to work remotely. So I know Tran is dealing with the same thing on his end. So it's been crazy in our lives. So when I'm taking this time to even make this video from just my little makeshift office now YouTube set, if you will, I understand that coaches are going to have to make the same adjustments on their end, but they have to be willing to make those adjustments. You can't just pretend. One of the things that sports does is you live in a bubble. And I get it. I was in this bubble as well. That's why this channel is called Fanatic Perspective. Many of us as fans are like that. But when something like this comes along and strikes us at the core from a global perspective, we have to think worldly and we have to think err on the side of caution, but we also need to have some perspective and utilize common sense on how we can still continue to be diligent as a staff, conduct our evaluations, you know, film study, everything we need to do, creative thinking on how we can continue to stay engaged with our kids while we physically can't touch them, in terms of teaching and training and physical development. But we have to do that from afar and we have to be confined to our homes at this moment in time. So hopefully those measures are being taken with the University of Texas staff. I know Tom Herman comes off as a guy, Chris Del Conte for sure, as folks who are at least worldly and can think on that platform to make sure things are good to go. But also, what does our world look like, sports world that is, look like post COVID-19? Um, Realistically, if everyone can adhere to common sense, fans included, you know, many of us saw the idiots down there in Florida trying to enjoy spring break. And I get, you know, those of you who have children or those of you who are seniors, high school or college, and it sucks. If you're class of 2020, this freaking sucks. I get it. My best friend just found out his wedding was canceled. My other friend who's getting married, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Brianna's cousin, their wedding is in jeopardy. So from, you know, graduations being canceled, I'm sure some of you guys can chime in the comments with some difficulties that, like I said, either you personally or your children are facing, just being a part of the 2020 class. It sucks. But again, common sense has to prevail, because if we don't adhere to what we're being advised to do by the experts that understand how we need to slow this thing down and combat this, then we will end up in a situation where this will take longer than it should. And now sports, football is really in jeopardy long term. Ideally, if we can come together and you know, have some patience and do what we need to do, maybe we get football back into July, August, when guys can be around, start practicing. And look, I understand the product itself is already in jeopardy just with the lack of spring conditioning, spring ball, and the period of time where you come together as a crew and set those goals for the season, getting your freshmen acclimated and up to speed. That's one of the biggest differences we've seen in college football in the last 20, 25 years. So we're kind of going old school in that regard, right? So what do we need? But what do we need to do to make sure we even have football, even if it's in a condensed manner this year, which is also a possibility. Now, the NCAA and the powers that be will make sure, you know, they have the same interest the fans do, because of, you know, they're still coin motivated, right? It's $1 billion industry. If they can have games, they will try to have games. But it just goes to show the level of the level, the heightened level of the situation. Now, from a Texas perspective, Tom Herman, you know, in this football program in particular, I do think there's some things they can take advantage of based upon the situation. And I know that sounds, that could sound a bit savage, but listen, when you look at some of the great teams and some of the smartest coaches, whenever there's been a disruption in a sport or a disruption in a situation, the smartest people in the room normally prevail. I go back all the time. I used to get flack about the '99 Spurs. when they won the NBA championship in a lockout shortened season. And, a lot of people say, well, the people, guys weren't serious and the league was, was only 50 games and then they went on and win. But what people seem to just remove from that situation is that every single team in the league was in that same situation as the San Antonio Spurs. What Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan, David Robinson at the time, Avery Johnson, all those guys did with their time, they took advantage of the situation. When they started the season, they were already in midseason form from a conditioning perspective. And granted, I get with quarantine and certain measures right now, this isn't a lockout versus, it's a different situation. But hear me out. You had guys, I remember Sean Kemp comes back. He's 300 something pounds with three kids and a drinking problem all of a sudden. You have guys who, were testing positive, having, drug issues and all sorts of things when they came off the lockout. Guys who clearly hadn't been working on their game. All of a sudden, they didn't see that ramp of improvement that they normally would had they been playing on a normal basis. Whereas you saw that from other teams and other organizations, if you will. So if you're Texas, I'll start with the players. Player responsibility. Right now, my captains and folks that have been around to understand what it takes to look good on the football field and be the best football player you can possibly be come fall. Are we having Google Hangouts or Zoom meetings or anything, Skype, just to connect virtually with your teammates? To build some camaraderie, make sure everybody's all right, even if it's just playing video games with each other, staying tied together. And the other thing too is from a football perspective, you can still watch film together. You can still do, film study breakdowns. Right now, I believe we're at 10 people or less. So we can still have the quarterback goes out and has some throwing sessions with a few receivers, and maybe you have a buddy system going on there. The NFL again will be different because those guys can ramp a lot faster. They're professionals. Many of them have access to equipment and certain things that college kids may not have access to in order to get themselves ramped. They don't need that much time to get ready for a season the way high school and college football players do. So I look at Texas, from a nutrition standpoint. I mentioned Sean Kemp earlier in the NFL. Now is not the time to lose track. We know Yancey McKnight has given all these guys, diet plan and workout plan and what they can do at home and, what they need to do in terms of road work every day. Almost having like a boxer mentality in training camp because you're solo, every single guy, right? But how many guys will take that upon themselves to hold themselves accountable to the rest of the team and take that seriously? Especially my bigger guys, making sure you come in at the weight you're supposed to so that we don't also, because I know from an entire college football landscape, and what I'm saying can be applied to any team, but from a college football landscape, you're probably going to see an increase of injuries when folks come back and whatnot because not everybody, it's such a massive disruption over a very long period of time. And so, again, Texas has an opportunity. I think we have a leg up, at least in our conference, when you look at experience at the quarterback position and the head coach, right? They've been married at the hip. This is now year 4 of Sam Ellinger. That ramp time shouldn't be as much as I'd be really concerned if we had a brand new quarterback coming in who now we lose a spring to get my new guy ramped up with the offense and develop that chemistry. Now, yes, we do have a new offensive coordinator and we have a lot of new coaches on the staff, but for the most part, our scheme and what we're doing and what guys, the roles that guys will have was pretty much the same, moving forward just with a different take or spin. Texas should be able to ramp quicker than some of the other teams. That's my expectation right now. And that should be the expectation when you have a veteran like a Sam Ellinger who's played a lot of football. When you look at the guys on defense, the amount of starts that Chris Ash will inherit on that side of the ball, and how they finished, I look at at some point when they hit the ground running. Hopefully we have a full season, but even like I said, if it's condensed, they should be ramped up further than other teams, right? So and at the end of the day, it still falls on the responsibility of coaches. what are some of the creative things that our staff will do to keep our kids engaged? It's not just about, there's several ways you can take advantage of this weird disruption in time. Whether it's X and O's, and you got the guys who are the wizards out there that will come up with some BS that no one's ever seen when the season starts, and it's like, well, they were just in the lab sitting there dialing up you know what. And then there's other coaches that will take this time to figure out how to still bond their teams virtually or whatever, and develop that chemistry anyway. I mean, you look at, that's why I put so much respect on Coach O at LSU, because of how he got that team to gel. Yes, he had a ton of talent, and you'll see it play out in the NFL draft over this year and then the following years. But the way that there was never a drop off with their energy level and the overall effort of the team from a week to week basis, regardless of opponent. That is something that is a very, very rare gift to have as a coach, to bring that out of a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds. Tom Herman, what is his plan, and can he be creative enough to help keep the guys engaged, and guys also having that personal responsibility, because Tom Herman can't go and stand over every single kid, all 85 to 90 kids on the team, and making sure they're doing whatever they're supposed to be doing on a daily basis to take care of their bodies and take care of their minds and take care of their, and nutrition is a part of that as well. But what they can do, you see Mark Cuban organizing things around Dallas for the Dallas Mavericks and being active. You're seeing that play out in the NBA. Some owners are dead silent. Some owners are out there saying, hey, these are some little things we can do with a small pocket of players on our team just to stay interactive, engaged with our fans and with our community. So hopefully I see more of that from this Texas football team, as at some points, and even in recruiting, guys. Yeah, I'm happy Kamar Wheaton got in here and JoJo Earl and all those guys got in here for their visits before things really, really got shut down. And that's awesome. And we made some great inroads. And shout out again to Andre Coleman and Jay Bulware, and all those guys who were out there on the road building those relationships, and getting that Texas buzz back up. However, it's a tough time for the kids, in my opinion, of the 2021 class, because this is supposed to be camp season right now, especially those that are coming off a track, getting into 7-on-7s, and really doing the camp circuit, and building your brand and your name, and rising up and down the rivals rankings and 24/7 rankings, and establishing your time, especially going into your senior season of high school football, because that's also in jeopardy. And so hopefully we all are doing our civic and communal responsibility to where we can have everything in place, and hopefully by fall running smoothly. But my heart does hurt for those kids who would have broken out this spring or this summer, who may not get that opportunity to get in front of that coach, and only puts more pressure on the coaches and their evaluations, right? So that's why getting the kids that we got in here, and I'm not worried like Jalen Milrow or the Brockermeyers or Kamar Wheaton. I know what those are the top guys, right? Like or even the brother Henderson. Like, I'm not worried about uh, whether or not those guys can play, but it's all the other folks that you see, that there's always a group of kids that it just they figure it out, it connects, or they have that physical maturation between that period at the end of their junior football season to their senior year, and we can get in and get some really, really talented kids there. So this is a period of time where everybody's getting exposed, and everybody will be, whether it's in the workplace. I'm talking about people that are able to work. If you're not able to work and you're in a tough situation, that's a totally different discussion and conversation, and that's again where community needs to step in. But when I say everybody's getting exposed, just relationships, being outside of that bubble from sports, taking care of your health. Some of these coaches aren't the healthiest individuals in terms of physical being. So a lot of things, just getting cleaned up, and being better as individuals, and not taking things for granted, right? We talked a lot about Texas basketball, and who would have thought that the last game I went to with my wife against Oklahoma State, which was a bloodbath for against us. But just taking those opportunities to go out there and be social and be around people, and it's tough. It's tough. So everybody's getting exposed. But I think when sports is able to come back, it can be at least somewhat of a light of a distraction in a time of financial and emotional darkness when we, come up and see the damage that this virus has done, not just to people's families and the ones that were lost and the ones that got really, really sick, but, with the market being the way it is, the layoffs, all those type of things. If we can get some sports back in our lives, at least it will help us make things easier and navigate through. And hopefully we've all learned the lesson to never take any of these things for granted. So I appreciate just getting the opportunity to make this video. I'm in the lab right now. If you guys, prefer this type of setup versus when I'm out in my living room in a little bit more open space, let me know. Always open to feedback. Matthew is doing well. Matthew actually, for those who don't know, UT was released from school, so he is actually back in Dallas for the time being, and I'm here in Austin. So just trying to figure everything out in this new world post coronavirus. So appreciate y'all. Please like, share, subscribe. And if you rock with me and support bosses, please support Bosses Ranch. They've been nothing but good to this channel, good to us, and very, very appreciative to work with them and for them to sponsor this video. So, guys, I appreciate y'all. Horns always up. Be safe.